See your client.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
If you want to see your client, if you'll speak to Deputy Laura, see if they can make arrangements for you all to see him this morning. Otherwise, they're gonna get sent back. Okay. All right, have a good one. And tell your little girl happy graduation.
They're not superimposing it.
Going to take 5 minutes.
You gotta enjoy. Yeah, that's gonna be exciting. Those are memories, creating memories. You know, you can put it as pre-trial. Okay. All right, everyone, we're gonna go on the record. Court is calling 2024 CR 2675 State versus Darren Johnson. Can I have parties announced for the record?
Megan Galloway and Andrew Edelman for the state.
William Davidson and Robert Porter for Ms. Johnson.
All right, and are you Miss Johnson?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and are both
Johnson.
all right, thank you. And are all parties ready to proceed?
Seats ready, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Deputy Laura.
I think you went to go see on the inmate.
If you could have the jury, don't want them to read the book. Just have them come in, yes.
No.
I'll just clarify that with the judge.
Yes.
Clarify, because you gotta go close.
Mhm.
You guys does have a deadly weapon allegation.
Does
That's not one I've read.
Mhm.
I believe that's the way on that.
Yes. All right, so state on the deadly weapon allegation, I know it's been done both ways, but the court will prefer you not read the deadly weapon allegation. And that'll just be later on a question for the jury to answer at punishment.
Okay.
Understood.
All right.
Okay. But
All right, thank you.
obviously. It's
And then Monica, it'll be probably for you the best to stand right there because they'll take you in the back probably.
Jury doesn't start back to. All right. Did y'all have this hooked up and everything?
Yeah, I have progress.
We're ready.
They'll be waiting for you next start, so he's gonna take them to the next start. Okay. Thank you. Can I have excuse, Your Honor?
Yes. Okay. Deputy Laura, you multitask so well. I appreciate that.
Trying to. All right, for the jury.
Thank you.
Okay.
Everyone, please be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you received an oath downstairs, but I'm going to give you an oath that's specifically for this trial. So if each of you could raise your right hand for me, please. Do you and each of you solemnly swear that in the case of the state of Texas against Ms. Johnson, you will a true verdict render according to the law and the evidence, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand. State you may proceed.
True bill of indictment. In the name and by authority of the state of Texas, grand jury of Bexar County, state of Texas, duly organized and paneled and sworn as such at the January term, AD 2024, of the 186th Judicial District Court of said county, in said court at said term, do present in and to said court, then in the county and state aforesaid and anterior to the presentment of this indictment. Count one. On or about the 21st day of October 2023, Darren Johnson, hereinafter referred to as defendant, did use and exhibit a deadly weapon, namely a motor vehicle, that in the manner of its use and intended use was capable of causing death and serious bodily injury, and defendant did intentionally, knowingly, and recklessly cause bodily injury to Mark Wayne Clanton, hereinafter referred to as complainant, by driving said deadly weapon at and in the direction of the complainant. Count 2. On or about the 21st day of October 2023, Darren Johnson, hereinafter referred to as defendant, did intentionally and knowingly cause bodily injury to Mark Wayne Clanton, an individual who was 65 years of age or older, by hitting the complainant with a motor vehicle against the peace and dignity of the state, signed by the foreman of the grand jury.
All right, to that, how do you plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may be seated. State, do you have any opening statements?
Yes, Your Honor. Blairwood Drive is an ordinary street located in North Bexar County, Texas. You're going to hear testimony that on October 21st of 2023, that street was not so ordinary on that day. You'll hear testimony that the complainant in this case was Mark Wayne Clanton. He has lived on Blairwood Drive for almost 20 years. His next door neighbor is the defendant, Darren Johnson. Now, on the date of the offense, Mark Clanton put his trash bins in front of his mailbox, and they were there for trash pickup. And on this day, the defendant in this case, you'll see video of her driving her motor vehicle. She drives a Ford F-350, and it's white. And she pulls up the street and makes a U-turn in front of Mark Clanton's home. She proceeds to get off of her vehicle and move Mark Clanton's trash cans from in front of his mailbox to the other side of his home. Mark Clanton sees this and he goes outside to put his trash bins back where he had them. Now he grabs a trash bin and proceeds to start walking to place the trash cans back in front of his mailbox. And you'll see the defendant hurry up to get into the driver's side of her motor vehicle and accelerate, put her truck up on the curb, collide with the trash bin, and knock Mark Clanton over. You will hear the injuries that he sustained from that collision, and you'll get to see photos of that as well. Now, you'll hear from the law enforcement in this case that conducted the investigation. You're going to hear from Officer Kyle Gavin. He was one of the officers that responded on the date of the offense. And you're going to hear that initially he wrote up the offense listing the defendant as a victim in the case. And he listed Mark Clanton as a suspect for obstructing a roadway. You're also going to hear evidence that that report and conclusion was not supported by law at all. Now, the case gets transferred to different detectives for follow-up, and they receive video evidence in the case. And when they review that evidence, they say, hey, obstruction was not a legally founded charge here. An aggravated assault has occurred. They conduct further investigation, reviewing videos, taking statements from witnesses, and that is how we end up here today. The defendant did commit the offense of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and she also committed the offense of injury to an elderly. You will hear testimony that Mark was 68 years of age on the day that this offense occurred. And at the end of this trial, we are confident that you will find the defendant guilty. Thank you.
All right, defense, do you have any opening statements?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Morning. This is a situation where my client lived next door to the Clantons. The houses are very close together. There's a curb in front of the houses. There's two, I'm gonna call them trash cans, but I'm sure one was a mulch bin or recycle. The one that you're gonna see that's closest to my client's house is also a place where the curb goes down to the street level and goes back up. That occurs so that water can come out between the houses. On the date that this incident happened, It's on a Saturday. There's no trash pickup on a Saturday. Mr. Clanton goes out and puts empty trash cans out there, blocking her place to park. He knows she always parks there. She comes back from an event. She tries to park. She stops her car. You're gonna see that when she stops her car in that, and this is very hard to see from the video because the angle of the video, there's trees in the way, all kinds of things in the way. So what you're gonna find though is that she stops in the wheel of her car is at that point on the curb where it's closest to the ground, just barely. She stops the car, gets out, carefully moves the cans behind, puts them in front of the house, gets back in the car, starts moving forward, not accelerating, moving forward. This guy comes running out of his house, grabs the cans, comes out, almost jumps in front of the car. The officers on the scene, not just one, but all of them, they saw the video at the scene. And they determined that he was responsible. They wrote up the report that way, and they went over and chastised him for it. So we're gonna write you up for obstruction. You don't jump in front of a moving car. You just don't do that. He said, okay. Then 11 days later, he gets photos taken of the alleged injuries. 11 days later. 11 days later. This detective gets involved. I'm not really sure what happens as far as his, what's going on with him. I just know that he changes the whole report. Now he says, well, she's responsible, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. She must have had the mental intent to run this guy over, or at least injure him, which requires a mental culpability. There is no mental culpability in this case. There's no crime in this case. And we believe that's what the evidence will show. And at the end, we're going to ask you to find my client not guilty. Thank you.
All right, state, you may call your first witness.
The state calls Officer Kyle Gapin.
If you can raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so that members of the jury can hear and the court reporter can hear. If you'll state your name for the record, please.
Kyle Gavin. Gapen.
All right, state, you may proceed.
Officer Gapin, how are you currently employed?
I'm employed as a peace officer with San Antonio Police Department.
And is that a certified peace officer?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been employed with San Antonio Police Department?
For almost 2 years.
Can you explain to the jury the training you underwent to become a law enforcement officer with San Antonio Police Department?
We went through a 9-month academy with double the state's required hours for license certification.
What type of things did you learn in the academy?
Traffic law, penal code, CCP, arrest search and seizure, and then tactics and shooting, driving.
Once you complete the academy, what is the next step in your training?
We go on a 3-month FTO period. So each month is at a different station with a different FTO. And if you progress to each, like phase 1, then you go to phase 2, phase 3, and then you have a 2-week period where you're evaluated without the assistance of an FTO.
And just so the jury is aware, does the FTO stand for Field Training Officer?
Yes,
And is that an officer that is more senior than the person that he's training?
yes,
Okay, and so when you're in this FTO program, are you considered a probationary officer, commonly known as a probie?
yes.
What is your current title and assignment with SAPD?
I am an officer and my assignment's on North B shift.
And as a officer, what are your duties?
To, protect and serve, patrol the area given, my districts and the service area.
Okay, when you say patrol, does that mean respond to calls for service where citizens are calling 911 for help?
Yes,
Okay. Now I want to turn your attention to October 21st of 2023. Were you employed as a police officer with the San Antonio Police Department on that day?
yes.
And about how long had you been on the force at that time?
As a licensed peace officer, less than 1 month.
Okay. And so were you in your probationary period at that time?
Yes.
All right. And what shift were you working on that day?
North daylight, or North A shift.
And what hours does daylight run?
I think it's 6:30 to 1:30.
Okay. Were you in uniform on that day?
I was, yes,
And were you in a marked patrol unit?
yes,
Okay. Did you respond to a call for service on that day?
yes,
Did you write a report associated with that call?
yes,
Would it help you refresh your memory if you were able to review a copy of that report?
yes.
Showing you what has been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit number 1. Do you recognize this?
Yes,
Were you the author of that document?
yes,
And is it a fair and accurate depiction of the report that you generated on October 21st, 2023?
yes.
All right, you're able to refresh your memory. Please don't read from it. So can you please explain to the jury what address you responded to on October 21st of 2023?
It was 13903 Flairwood.
Is that located in San Antonio, Texas?
Yes,
And is that located in Bexar County, Texas?
yes.
What type of location is that?
It's a residence.
Do you recall why you were dispatched to that residence?
It was an accident.
And is the SAPD case number associated with that call SAPD 23236613?
Yes.
Once you arrived on scene, who did you make contact with?
I believe I made contact with the defendant.
And can you just describe the scene that you observed upon arrival?
So there was a truck, garbage cans to the side of it, and then an individual that was on the ground, and then the defendant was back by her house, and we went to go because there was an officer that responded first. We talked with him, and then we switched over to speak with the kind of exchange and go to the defendant.
Okay, what type of vehicle, or you said you saw a truck, is that correct?
Yes.
What type of truck was that?
It was a Ford pickup truck.
Do you recall what make and model it was?
It was a 350.
Okay.
Right.
And so you make contact with the defendant, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and then did you take statements from anybody else on scene?
Yes.
Who was that?
From the victim
Oh.
of this one.
And so in your report, who did you list as the victim in your report?
In my report, the defendant was the victim and the current victim of
Okay.
switched.
I'm gonna have you use names, so.
Okay.
In your investigation on scene, who did you determine to be the victim in your opinion?
Darren Johnson.
Okay, and who did you determine to be the suspect from the limited investigation that you did on scene?
I think his name was Clayton, Mr. Clayton.
Okay. And was there video evidence that you were able to observe on scene?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you view that video evidence?
Through a cell phone.
Through a cell phone?
Yes.
Okay, and what size was the screen?
I think it was an iPhone, so I don't know, 3x2. I don't really know the dimensions.
Okay. And then after taking all statements, what type of report did you generate?
I generated an obstruction of highway report.
Okay. And, what was the reason that you did that?
I felt that after watching the video, Mr. Clayton had obstructed Ms. Johnson from driving her vehicle.
Okay. What is the legal definition of obstruction?
To impede passage.
Impede a passageway and
Yes.
render it impassable, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and so you've had an opportunity to view the video evidence again, correct?
Yes.
And in viewing that video evidence, was the passageway rendered impassable?
No.
Okay,
Judge, I'm gonna object, that's a legal conclusion.
That'll be sustained.
May disregard.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're to disregard the last answer that was given by the witness. Does everyone understand? Thank you.
in watching the video evidence, were there other areas of the street where vehicles could pass?
Yes.
All right, so, excuse me, to the witness.
That's okay, Judge.
No, I just want to explain something, because I know sometimes people are not used to testifying. If you ever see any party stand up, don't answer the question because they're about to make an objection.
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
Yes,
you may
ma'am.
proceed, state.
And the reason that you took this report, is it because you were trying to gain
Leading judge.
experience?
All right, let me hear the question and then I'll hear your objection.
What was the reason that you decided to take the report writing responsibilities as a probationary officer?
To gain experience for the call, we were assigned to that call in order to satisfy training objectives for a motor vehicle striking a pedestrian.
We passed the witness, Your Honor.
All right, defense.
Good morning, officer. My name is Robert Porter. I'm gonna ask you a few questions. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm gonna ask you a few questions. If you don't understand them, just say, I don't understand them, okay? Now, probationary officer, you had already gone through a lot of training, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, let me ask you a couple of things. When you arrived on scene, you talked to the complainant, I guess. Well, you talked to both parties, is that right?
Yes.
Nobody else was out there on the scene when this happened, is that right?
I don't think when the incident occurred.
When the incident occurred?
No, I don't believe anyone was out there, but people did come out to assist. There were several people around.
Okay. After the fact. Other people showed up after the fact, right?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. So when you were at the scene, you had an opportunity to view the scene, is that right?
Yes.
And being a rookie, I guess, and I don't mean to just downplay you, but being new to the job, you took extra care because you're being judged on how you write reports, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So being a good officer at that time, you watched the scene, looked at the scene, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, would you agree with me that you also looked at the curb where the trash bins were placed?
Yes.
Okay. And you'd agree with me also that that curb isn't a raised curb throughout the whole thing. There's actually a dip in the curb that goes to street level and then they come up. Is that right?
I believe like at the driveway area, if that's where you're talking about.
Well, there's the driveway area and then there's the area right between the two houses. There's a dip, right?
I don't remember if there
You
was.
don't remember that?
No.
Judgment approach?
Yes.
So I'm gonna show you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 1. Okay, now you mentioned in your report. Well, let me ask you this. Do you recognize this photo?
Like the location in the photo?
Correct.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do you recognize that?
Yes,
Okay, now what does that alleged to have shown?
that there's a dip in the curb.
Okay, now is this picture the location where this happened?
In the general area, yes.
Okay, and you had mentioned the address?
Yes, this is, I believe, Mr. Clayton's address.
Okay. Has this been altered or amended from the date you were there in any way?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. This time, Judge, we're gonna offer states the defense exhibit number 1, tendered to state for any objections.
No objection.
Right, defense exhibit number 1 is admitted without objection.
Okay, so you've agreed with me that there's that dip in the sidewalk. Now, this happened on a Saturday, is that right?
I'm unfamiliar with what day it was.
October 21st of 2023. Do you have a cell phone with you?
I do, yes.
Pick it up. Scroll through your calendar.
Judge, I'm gonna object to lack of personal knowledge and relevance.
All right, that will be overruled.
You can look up October 21st of 2023.
Yes, it is a Saturday.
Is there trash pickup on Saturdays?
I'm unfamiliar with that area. If,
There's no trash pickup on Sundays either, is that right?
again, I'm unfamiliar. I figured neighborhoods do it differently.
Are you aware of the city ordinance that says you're not supposed to be putting out your trash bans until within 24 hours of the date it's supposed to be picked up?
I was unaware of that, no.
Now, when you showed up, you're getting different versions of what happened, is that right?
Yes,
Okay. But you were actually able to watch a video of what happened, is that right?
yes,
Now, once you watch that video matched what Ms. Johnson was telling you, is that right?
for the most part, yes.
So let's kind of walk through it a little bit, is that right?
Okay.
Okay, so these bands were placed right at the edge of the one house and then right at the edge of Mrs. Johnson's house, is that right? Because they're neighbors.
Yes,
You can see Miss Johnson, let me ask you this, that pickup truck, it's a big old 350, is that right?
yes,
It's a big vehicle. You'd agree with me on that?
Yeah.
So she pulls up, right? And in order for her to go forward to go in front of her house, she gets out of her pickup and then moves the trash cans, is that right?
yes.
Now, these trash cans weren't moved to the other side of the property, they were actually moved into his driveway, isn't that right?
I don't know where they were moved. I just know that they were moved off of the roadway.
And at that point in time, all you're seeing is Miss Johnson, is that right?
Yes,
But then at that time, what you see it, if you look closely at that picture that I just showed you, that the pickup truck she had pulled in. Front tire was on this edge right here. Do you agree with me on that?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I don't remember, no.
So what you did see though. And at the time, you didn't know who it was, but you see a man moving quickly, grabbing a blue van and quickly moving toward that curve. Is that right?
Yes,
He was in a rush. It wasn't like I'm just kind of sauntering, right? And as he's doing this, that video also shows Ms. Johnson getting back into her truck. Is that right?
yes.
Is it generally a good idea when you're gonna pull out or go forward to check your blind spot?
Yes,
So what that video shows, it's a bang bang situation, isn't that right?
yes,
And in fact, what you see is the truck going forward. It wasn't racing forward, right?
it was not.
It was just pulling forward,
Yes,
right? But what you do see is Mr. Clayton, is that how you pronounce it? Clanton? You do see him coming very fast toward the front of the truck, right? With his dumpster.
Yes,
And then you see the truck kind of go up.
yes,
What you don't see is the truck's tires turning.
correct.
They're going straight.
Yes,
Okay. And at that point in time, what you see is just a bang. She stops right away and then you see him fall down,
yes.
right? Okay. Now, in speaking with this, so once you saw that, once you saw that, have you reviewed that video before your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell from the video whether the pickup truck hit him or did it hit the dumpster?
Honestly, I don't know that. I mean,
We don't know,
Yeah.
right? We don't know. But what we do know is we see Miss Johnson get out of her truck right away, right? She walks around, sees him there, he's yelling, and she calls police. Right?
yes, I believe she was one. Yes,
You talked to everybody that day on the scene on the 21st of October. Is that right?
for the most part. Yeah.
You watched that video on the 21st of October, correct?
Yes,
You viewed Mr. Clanton on the 21st of October. Is that right?
yes.
You didn't see any injuries on him.
I did not know.
Now, based on that, you, in fact, you looked at everything, and I'm not asking you to draw a legal conclusion, but you looked at everything, right?
Yes,
Okay. Based on what you saw with just on the video, let's take away what everybody's editorialization is. Based on the video, what you saw was an obstruction. Is that right?
yes,
Okay. And that obstruction was because you saw this gentleman going fast, trying to place it in front of a moving vehicle
yeah, and or himself. Yeah.
or himself,
Yeah.
right? Is that a safe thing to do?
No,
Is it a smart thing to do?
no.
One minute. How many more officers showed up at the scene?
Um, including supervisors or just officers?
Well, let's just start with the officers. How many officers?
Okay. I think at least 4 others that were there besides me and my FTO.
And then you said other people showed up?
Yeah, there was one supervisor that showed up.
Okay. Who else showed up to the scene while you were there?
EMS showed up. Was there?
And EMS also showed up at that point in time?
Yes,
Do you remember if the EMS took him to the hospital?
they did not.
You weren't the only officer that viewed that video on the 21st of October, is that right?
Yes.
Who else viewed that?
My FTO.
For the jury's edification, FTO is field training officer?
Yeah, my field training officer.
Were you in the same car you riding with him?
Yes, sir.
You weren't discouraged by him to not write the obstruction.
Can you?
In other words, he didn't say, no, don't write an obstruction.
I'm gonna object to hearsay based on what the officer is telling him.
All right, that objection will be sustained as to hearsay.
Okay. Needless to say, does your field training officer, does he review your reports?
Yes.
And after review, you never changed your report?
No.
Once you're done Because I guess you wrote the report because you're considered what's called the lead officer, is that right?
Yeah, so because I took the call for training purposes, that I would handle the call, be the handling officer.
So it's your responsibility, let me ask you this. Between you and the detective, what are the responsibilities change?
Just me and any detective, or
Okay, so
like in the general sense?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let me clarify that a little
Yes.
bit. So your duty of that day was you went there, right? You viewed the scene. Would you agree with me? Viewing the scene is extremely important.
Absolutely.
And so it's imperative that you go there to see what's going on.
Yes.
You talked to any potential witnesses. Okay.
Yes.
You looked at everybody.
Yes.
You looked at the evidence itself. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You wrote your report, and that report, there's nowhere in there about an aggravated assault, right?
Correct.
Based on that, you passed the case off. Is that right?
Yes.
You said, who was the first officer on scene?
I believe his name was De Leon.
DeLeon?
I think so.
You know if he wrote a report?
I don't know if he wrote a report or not.
Is it common that when officers show up at a scene, do they all write reports?
It depends on what happens on the scene.
Okay.
So
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, sometimes we're prompted to write reports. Sometimes if it's a certain level of an offense, or if it involves another officer, or if there's a use of force or something like that, all the officers on the scene, even if they didn't make contact with anyone, if they were just patrolling around, they would just indicate I did nothing, basically.
So let me ask you this.
Yes.
When you write your report, is that just your own personal knowledge, or do you take into consideration what all the other officers, if you all talked about it, decide to write you?
Yeah, it's a collective effort. Everyone's kind of working together.
So on the 21st of October, the collective effort of all the officers there, right? It was an obstruction case.
Well, between me and myself and my FTO, we were the kind of people we were interacting with. Yeah, that's what we concluded.
I'll pass it.
State.
Further questions,
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
excused by the state.
All right, you may step down. Please leave the exhibits and with the court reporter. Are you able to get the exhibits? All right. All right, thank you. All right, state, call your next witness.
State calls Officer J. DeLeon.
All right, can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so that members of the jury can hear. If you'll state your name for the record.
Officer Jesus de Leon.
All right, state, you may proceed.
Officer DeLeon, how are you currently employed?
With the San Antonio Police Department?
Are you a certified peace officer?
Yes,
How long have you been employed with the San Antonio Police Department?
5 years.
Okay. And what kind of training did you undergo to become a police officer with SAPD?
During the training at the Police Academy, we were trained in the Code of Criminal Procedure, the Texas Penal Code, mechanics of arrest, scene management, firearms training, driving training.
And the training academy, is it about 9 months? Is that
Yes, that's correct.
after you complete the academy, what's the next step in training?
The next step is field training, which consists of being out in the field for several months, 1 month at a time with a training officer who's an experienced officer that has been on patrol for a number of years and has that certification. You'll be with that training officer 1 month at a time, learning how to handle the calls out in the field under their guidance.
Okay. What is your current title and assignment with FAPD?
I'm a patrol officer in the North District area.
What are your duties as a patrol officer in the north?
Handling a lot of the calls that were dispatched to, domestic disturbances, family violence, assaults, handling crash accidents, the highways, local roadways, patrolling around school districts, especially during school times, and doing on-site activities for things that we deem to be not right or suspicious.
Okay. Now, back on October 21st of 2023, were you employed as a police officer with SAPD?
Yes,
And was your title and assignment the same as a patrol officer with the North Substation?
yes,
And were your duties the same as responding to calls for service?
yes,
Okay. And on that day, were you dispatched to a call for service?
yes.
Do you recall the SAPD case number associated with that call?
I do not recall it right at the moment.
When you respond to a call can you explain to the jury what a key card is?
The key card is the information that becomes available on the screen computer that's in the patrol vehicle. It's where the information comes across for the address that we're going to and what the call is coded out as, meaning what type of call am I responding to? Is it an accident or an assault? And it has some details that may have been provided that will be relayed at the bottom of the screen, which shows maybe what is going on with victims or suspects or vehicles involved. And that provides us some information as we're driving to the scene.
Okay. So was there a key card associated with the case that we're here for today?
Yes,
Would it help to refresh and did you make entries on that key card on the day of?
yes,
Would it help you refresh your memory if you were able to observe a copy of that?
yes,
I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 2. Do you recognize this document?
yes,
Okay, and is that your name on the document?
yes,
And are those the entries that you made on the document?
yes,
And is this a fair and accurate depiction of the key card as it was on the date of the offense?
yes.
Okay, if you need to, you can refresh your memory, just please don't read from it. So can you tell me, is the SAPD case number associated with the call that you were dispatched to? SAPD 23236613.
Yes.
And when you were dispatched to the location, do you remember, were you first on scene or were there other officers there? Can you explain that to the jury?
I was the first officer to arrive on scene.
Okay. Can you please describe to the jury the scene that you encountered upon arrival?
Yes, when I arrived to the location, I exited my vehicle and I started walking towards the grassy area. I first observed a white truck that was parked curbside in front of the address. And a male was laying on the grassy area adjacent to the curb. There were several people around him, maybe 5 persons. And then there was a female that was standing several feet away from him. And I spoke with the person that was laying on the ground and then the female person that was standing up, trying to ascertain what had happened, and then keeping the persons separated that should have been kept separated.
Okay. And the location that you were dispatched to and the scene that you just described, was that located at 13903 Flairwood Drive?
Yes,
And is that located in Bear County, Texas?
yes,
And what type of location is that?
it's a residential home.
Okay. And so you make contact with multiple people on scene, is that correct?
Yes,
Can you walk the jury through the people that you made contact with?
I made contact with the person laying on the ground who was Mark Clanton. and I made contact with the person that had been driving the truck, Darren Johnson. And I made contact with a person there who said he was a witness to what had occurred.
Do you recall that individual's name?
His name is Aaron Rodriguez.
Did other officers arrive on scene?
Yes.
And who ultimately took the responsibility of writing the report that day?
Officer Gapin was a probationary officer who had been out there maybe 2 weeks. I don't recall exactly. He was with his field training officer, which was Jesus Torres Rosado. And he informed me that he wanted the probationary writer to take the main point on the investigation.
Object on the basis of hearsay.
All right, that'll be overruled.
You can continue.
And from that point on, I informed the person I had been speaking with at that time, which was Darren Johnson, to speak with that officer, Officer Gapin.
Okay. In your interaction with the defendant Darren, well, do you see Darren Johnson in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Can you please point to her and identify her by an article of clothing?
She was wearing the gray blazer.
Thank you. And so can you describe her demeanor when you spoke with her?
When I spoke with her when I arrived, she seemed a little excited. She made some comments that made it seem to me
Yeah.
that she wanted to be
Object on
non-culpable
the
of
basis
anything that
of
had
hearsay.
happened.
once
Wait,
again.
just 1 second. So whenever attorney stands, I need you to stop talking because they're raising an objection.
Yes.
All right, defense, what is your objection?
Well, my objection is he's making a comment about what my client said, and he's using the basis of saying she seemed a little excited, but this is hearsay.
All right, with regards to hearsay, that objection will be overruled.
I guess, Judge, can the parties approach very
Yes.
briefly? Officer DeLeon, were you wearing a body worn camera on the date of the offense?
Yes,
And did that capture your interaction with the defendant?
yes.
I'm gonna show you what's been marked as state's exhibit number 3. And I'm pulling the contents out of the envelope. Do you recognize this?
Yes,
What is it?
it's a disc from the video that I viewed earlier and initialed.
Okay, and so this is a copy of your body worn camera,
Yes,
and did you place your identifying marks on it so that you know this is the same thing that you've previously reviewed?
yes,
And is it a fair and accurate depiction of the scene as you observed it on the date of the offense?
yes,
And except to comply with legal rules, has it been altered in any way?
not to my knowledge. No.
At this time, we offer state's exhibit number 3.
All right, state's exhibit 3 will be admitted over defense's objection.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
Granted.
And so we see you kind of gesturing. I'm pausing the state's exhibit. As the first officer on scene, what are you doing when you're gesturing?
When I'm gesturing there, wanting to have the defendant step away from where the victim is at that time.
And why is that important? And
I want to keep the parties separated to keep anything from happening further. And at this point, I'm not 100% sure what's happened, so I'm still assessing. I want to get a statement from her, at least get some information while not being near the other party.
I'm playing state's exhibit number 3 at 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Okay, were you driving?
Yes, sir.
He jumped in front of my vehicle. In your driver's license? Yes, sir. You need to stand over here away from me. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you one more time, okay? I don't want to repeat myself, okay?
And so when you're telling the defendant, not to give the statement at that time, is it important that all witnesses are not giving their statements in front of each other?
Yes,
And why is that?
it's important because they can hear each other and then they can take the information from each other's story.
And do you know the name of that witness that you're speaking to?
It's Aaron Rodriguez.
And what are we observing displayed on State's Exhibit number 3, or what did we just observe?
Their SAFD arrived to the San Antonio Fire Department, and I let them know that the victim is laying on the other side of the truck, needs to be checked.
Did you observe them render aid to Mark Blanton?
Yes,
Okay, ma'am. So I moved, trash cans in front of my house, so I couldn't park. Okay. I moved them, and I didn't expect that he would jump out in front of my vehicle. When he knew I was trying to park there, he said, "You can't park here." I said, "It's street parking." I was parking the car because I bought groceries. He knew that, he jumped in front of the vehicle. This is all staged, just like everything is. Okay, where were they standing? It was in front, so I couldn't park in front of my house. And was it on this side of the yes, yes. Black or not? Yes. And it doesn't matter, it's street parking, I should be able to park there. I moved it, he said, "Don't move my trash cans, you can't park anywhere in front of the houses." I said, "It's street parking, my driveway's full, I wanna unload my groceries," and he jumped in front of the vehicle. They also have video. Huh? No, I'm not up on the curb, no, I stopped immediately when he jumped in front of the car. You can see I was trying to park, he was crashing it down there, I can't park. When I moved up, he says, he's trying to jump in front of my vehicle. Whenever you start talking to the stop sign, I appreciate it.
Your Honor, at this time, the state offers State's Exhibit number 4 under Rule 803 and 902, and I'm tendering to defense first.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, let me see State's Exhibit number 4, so I can mark it. All right, State's Exhibit number 4 is admitted without objection. Granted.
All right, Officer DeLeon, can you see that? If you have trouble, you can turn around and look on the big screen. Is that? Can you see it on that screen, or you need to turn around?
I'll turn around.
Okay. Are you able to observe it on there?
Yes,
Okay. Can you tell me who is the patient that these records are associated with?
Mark Clayton.
And are you able to observe that?
Yes,
Can you tell me the date of birth? And can you read from State's Exhibit? Can you read that first paragraph?
Judge,
starting from here.
E40 arrived on scene to find a 78-year-old male lying down in yard complaining of right-sided knee pain. From being hit by vehicle, E40 began physical assessment and found patient was, and I don't know what the abbreviation stands for,
Okay.
LOC, DCP, BTLS.
Right, if you don't know what the initials stand for, then you're not allowed to read or interpret that.
So you can just move on to starting right here.
Right knee pain, abrasion, left foot
Judge,
clench.
again, we're gonna object that he's interpreting as PN. You can read it, he can read what is there in front of him.
All right, you're not allowed to interpret any medical information that is on the document. You're not allowed to guess what the initials stand for.
And then just this last line right here.
Left foot plantar abrasion, blood thinners, minor bleeding to lower gums.
And what is the date of service?
10/21/2023.
Okay, thank you. Now you stated that you did not write a report, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that something that's common when multiple officers are responding to a scene?
Yes,
And you did notate the scope of your duties on scene in the key card, is that correct?
yes.
Okay, and so ultimately, you did not, who is the person that took the report writing duties?
Officer Gapin.
Did you have an opportunity to observe any video evidence on that date?
No,
Okay, and why is that?
I did not look at the video because I was not continuing to handle the preliminary investigation.
Okay, when you say you're not continuing to handle, does that mean that you kind of just handed off the investigation to Kyle Gapin?
Yes,
Okay, and so did he consult you in any way about what offense he was writing up or anything like that?
no, I do not recall.
Okay, did you have knowledge of his report and the offense associated with that before today?
No,
Okay, and have you had a chance to review the video evidence associated with the case?
yes,
After reviewing that video evidence, would you have reached the same conclusion as Gapin?
Judge, that calls for a legal conclusion. He didn't write a report.
Well, Judge, I'm
She's
gonna ask-
asking him to rely
I'm gonna
on
ask that we
hearsay.
approach for this sidebar.
All right, approach. All right, you may proceed.
Thank you. So I'm just gonna back up a little bit. So it was your testimony that you were the first on scene, is that correct?
Yes,
And on scene, you took a statement from Mark Planton, is that correct?
yes,
Okay, and you further took a statement from the defendant Darren Johnson, is that correct?
yes,
And then further, you took a statement from Aaron Rodriguez, is that correct?
yes,
And you were the only officer that spoke to Aaron Rodriguez on that day, isn't that correct?
I don't know.
Okay, and when you spoke with the defendant, did she show you any video evidence?
No,
However, you observed all the parties and took statements from everybody that you deemed relevant to the investigation, correct?
yes,
And, after doing that, Officer Gapin comes in and kind of assists in the or takes over the investigation, is that correct?
yes,
And so he took statements from the defendant Darren Johnson and Mark Planton. Do you know if he did that?
yes, that's what he would have done, yes.
Okay, and so then he writes a report. Did you write a report charging anyone with an offense?
No,
Okay, and would you, and you did not have the opportunity to view video evidence on scene, correct?
no,
But you've since viewed that video evidence, is that correct?
yes,
And after viewing that evidence, would you have written a report
Judge?
against?
Well, just a second, let me hear the question.
After viewing the video evidence, would you change the course of your investigation? Or would you leave it as is? I guess let me rephrase the question. Well, I guess, are you gonna, go ahead.
If is that the question?
Well, I was gonna rephrase, but if you want to object to that question, go ahead.
The way it was asked, Judge, was in my objection.
All right,
You
the-
want to approach?
all right, the previous objection will be overruled to that question.
Can you approach?
Yes.
Since that day, have you had an opportunity to review Officer Kyle Gapin's report?
I did so today.
Okay, and in your review of the duties that you did on scene, right? So taking witness statements, and then since that day, viewing video evidence, would you have wrote up an offense on either party?
Judge, that's not relevant.
All right, the objection to relevancy will be sustained.
Would you change any of the things that you did on scene that
Again,
day?
Judge, that's not relevant.
All right, that will be sustained.
in totality of everything that you viewed on today, with the things that you did on the offense day and the evidence that you've reviewed since, would the conclusion of the investigation that you conducted on scene have changed?
Judge?
All right, could everybody approach?
Okay, and so on scene, you decided to not write up any offense against anyone, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, pass the witness.
Officer,
Oops.
thank you, Judge. Officer, you were first on scene, but you weren't the primary officer, is that right?
correct.
Okay. What are the duties of a primary officer?
The primary officer is gonna have to write the offense report and make the decision on really who's gonna be the suspect and the victim. After speaking with everybody, taking the statements, figuring out what happened.
And so, for lack of a better term, he's not really the boss out there, but he's the lead officer, is that right?
Yes,
So it's his duty at that point in time to gather all the information that he's aware of in speaking with other officers, is that right?
yes,
Speaking with the witnesses,
yes,
looking at all the evidence they possibly can.
yes,
And then based on all of that, he writes his report, is that right?
yes,
Your job then at that point in time was just to say, I'm here, let me just get a general idea of what is happening.
yes,
And that's what you did.
yes.
In fact, in watching that video, you didn't even give any kind of first aid at all.
No,
Okay. You just kind of got, this is a general idea of what's going on, then all the other officers come in, is that right?
I was handling the investigation and then it was taken over by Officer Gapin at the request of his field training officer.
In fact, because it's taken over, you didn't even write a report.
Yes, that's correct.
So your memory right now is based on just the video you saw
Yes,
of them. I'll pass it to this judge.
And no further questions for this witness, Judge.
All right, is this witness excused?
By the state, yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down. Make sure you leave the exhibits with the court reporter. State, call your next witness.
State called Aaron Rodriguez.
Can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so that the members of the jury can hear. If you'll state your name for the record, please.
Aaron Rodriguez.
All right, state, you may proceed.
Aaron, how old are you?
I am 19.
And what city do you currently live in?
San Antonio.
How long have you lived in San Antonio?
My entire life.
And did you attend high school in San Antonio?
Yes, ma'am.
What high school did you attend?
James Madison High School.
Okay. Are you employed currently?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What are your plans for the future?
Recently I'm trying to talk to a recruiter about joining the Texas National Guard.
Okay. Now I want to talk to you about October 21st of 2023. Do you recall that day?
Yes,
And where were you on that day?
ma'am. At my girlfriend's house.
And on what street does your girlfriend live?
Flairwood.
Okay. Does your girlfriend have a next door neighbor?
Yes,
Who are the next door neighbors, if you know?
ma'am. Ina Clayton and was Mark Clayton too.
Okay. When you say was Mark, what do you mean by that?
Before he passed away.
Okay. And so Ina and Mark are the neighbors of your girlfriend's grandma, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you were at the house on that day, is that correct?
Yes,
And were you inside or outside?
I was outside.
Okay, what were you doing outside?
I was in the front yard or by the front door on the phone with my grandmother.
Okay. And so if I'm you, right, and I'm at your girlfriend's grandmother's house looking out towards Flairwood Drive, Ina and Mark's house is located where, on the left or the right side?
The right side.
Okay. And so you're standing there, and did you observe anything out of the ordinary on that day?
No. When I went outside, it was pretty normal. I actually witnessed Mark putting his trash cans outside. And but other than that, no.
Okay. Did you observe anything regarding the trash cans later on after Mark put them?
Rephrase the question.
Okay, so you observed Mark put his trash cans out, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then what happened regarding the trash cans after that?
Shortly after, a white pickup truck pulled up and she got out, moved the trash cans to his driveway, and he asked her to not touch his property, which he then proceeded to move them back to where they were. And then she got back in her pickup truck after moving them, and I heard the engine rev, then put into gear, and that's when he fell, and I witnessed the truck hit him in the front part, the front right part where the headlight is.
Okay. So when you say her got off the truck, who are you referring to? If you don't know her name, that's okay, but do you see the same person in the courtroom today?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you please point to her and identify her by an article of clothing?
She's wearing the gray jacket.
Thank you. And so when you observe the truck, did you get to observe if it like went up on the curb?
Yes, ma'am.
It did?
Yes.
Okay. And after the collision, what happened with Mark?
He was What I seen, he was thrown to the ground, which concerned me because I thought he actually had gotten run over. So at the time, I ran inside and told my girlfriend's grandmother to call the police and possibly EMS.
Okay. Do you know, did police arrive on scene on that day?
Yes,
And did you talk to any police officers?
yes, ma'am.
Do you recall how many police officers you spoke with?
Only one.
Okay. And I'm gonna publish state exhibit number 3. And you have a screen up there, but if you need to, you can turn around and look on the big screen. So I'm pausing the state exhibit. We see an individual in a white shirt and black basketball shorts. Do you know who that person is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so this home that I'm toggling the mouse over right here, do you know whose home that is?
Yes, ma'am.
Whose home is that?
Ina and Mark Klein.
Okay, and then this home that I'm toggling my mouse over,
Mhm.
whose home is that?
That is my girlfriend's house.
Okay, and so you were standing in front of this house when you observed this, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And on state exhibit number 3, is that you providing a statement to the officer that spoke with you on that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you what has been marked as state exhibit number 5. Do you recognize this? Is this a copy of a video that you've previously reviewed?
Yes.
And does this video fairly and accurately depict the events as you observed them on the offense date?
Yes.
And except to comply with legal rules, has it been altered in any way?
Not that I know of.
At this time, the state offers state exhibit number 5.
No objection, John.
All right, state's exhibit number 5 is admitted without objection.
A permission to publish, Your Honor.
Granted.
And so on the state's exhibit, these trash cans that you observed, who placed them out there?
Mark.
Okay. And the person that's moving the trash cans on the state's exhibit, is that the same person that you identified in court today?
Yes, ma'am.
And do we see another truck driving on the street?
Yes, ma'am.
And another car?
Yes, ma'am.
And after you observed the collision, what did you do?
I proceeded to go inside. Well, first I hung up the phone with my grandmother, explaining what happened. Then I went inside to tell my girlfriend's grandmother to call the police.
Okay, and then after you did that, what did you do?
I went outside to go check on Mark.
And is that you that we see where I'm toggling my mouse?
Yes, ma'am.
We passed the witness, Your Honor.
All right, defense.
Good morning. My name is William Davidson. I'm gonna ask you some questions.
Okay.
Now, you said that you were out there and saw this,
Yes, sir.
and was it your testimony a minute ago that you were on the phone with your grandmother explaining what happened
After the fact, yes, sir.
after the fact? But would you agree with me, there's quite a bit of time that goes by, you're not seeing in the video, you're not seeing running up there to check on him or anything, are you?
No, sir.
Okay. And you're aware that this happened back in 2023 and that Mr. Clanton didn't pass away until late 2025 or early 2025 for some other reason?
Yes, sir.
And would it surprise you that the officer who was running this investigation said he talked to everybody and that he didn't find any witnesses that were there?
That is not of my knowledge.
Now, would you agree with me that video is coming from a different angle than what you say you saw?
Yes, sir.
And you're aware that it was from our client's front door?
The video footage?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That's what it's showing.
No further questions, Judge.
All right, is the witness excused?
Yes, by the state, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down. State, call your next witness.
The state calls Detective D. Smith.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record, and make sure you keep your voice up so that members of the jury can hear.
My name's Detective David Smith.
All right, you may proceed.
Detective Smith, how are you currently employed?
With the San Antonio Police Department. Work our fusion unit.
Okay. How long, are you a certified peace officer?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been with the San Antonio Police Department?
28 years.
And your current title and assignment, well, let me back up. What kind of training did you undergo to become a law enforcement officer with SAPD?
I went through our police academy for 7 months and then ongoing training from there.
Okay. Now, what is your current title and assignment with SAPD?
I'm an intelligence detective with our Southwest Texas Fusion Center.
Typically, what does the Fusion Center deal with?
Generally, I do follow-up work for cases. We have a variety of cases. We deal with anything from obstructing highway to weapons cases, unlawful carrying, that kind of thing, all the way to terroristic threats with school threats, things like that.
Okay. So if I'm understanding correctly, if a patrol officer makes the scene and writes a report, it would be forwarded to you for follow-up investigation. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And were you assigned to conduct follow-up investigation on SAPD 2323-6613?
That case number sounds familiar.
Okay. Well, were you assigned for follow-up investigation for the case that we're here for today?
Yes,
Okay, and did you generate a supplemental report associated with that?
I did.
Okay, and would it help refresh your memory if you had a copy of that up there with you?
I've read it recently.
Okay. So I'm gonna show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 7 for identification purposes only.
Oh.
Is that a copy of the report that you've written?
Yes,
Okay, and is it a fair and accurate depiction of the report that you generated associated with this call?
yes, it appears so.
Okay, and so can you just let the jury know what the SAPD case number associated with the call is?
SAPD 2323-6613.
Okay, and can you explain to the jury how you ended up with that assigned to that call?
This case was originally written as an obstructing highway passageway, which includes streets, sidewalks, that kind of thing. And it was assigned to me.
Okay. And what did you do once you received the case?
I read the original report. I haven't read the original report recently. But when I read the original report, I made contact with the complainant of that particular case. That complainant indicated to me that she had video of the incident that took place where he was obstructing her passageway or her ability to move on the roadway. So I asked her to send it to me. She was the complainant. She sent me the video. After watching the video, I realized that the elements of the offense for obstructing the passageway weren't there. And I informed her of that. She wanted me to help her because apparently she had some dealings with this.
Hold on.
Okay.
I'm just gonna stop you right there, okay?
Okay.
And so after you observed the video evidence, I'm gonna show you what's been marked or entered into evidence as State's Exhibit number 5. And if you have a screen in front of you, but if you need to turn around, you can do so to view the State's Exhibit.
I can see here.
Is that the video that was provided to you? And the victim at the time, the victim of the obstruction, was that the defendant Darren Johnson?
Yes,
Okay. And so she sent you this video, is that correct?
correct.
And she purported it to be a fair and accurate depiction of what occurred?
Yes.
And after reviewing that, what was the result of your follow-up investigation of the case?
My follow-up, I didn't feel that the elements of the offense for obstructing a passageway were present, and the case was unfounded.
Okay, and on State's Exhibit number 5, isn't it true that we observed multiple vehicles traveling along the Flairwood Drive?
Certainly.
And then after you deemed the obstruction charge unfounded, who did you pass the case off to?
It went over to homicide ultimately.
And so at that time, did a different detective take over for follow-up investigation?
Correct.
We pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, defense.
Detective, my name's Robert Porter. In all fairness, you and I know each other quite
Yes.
some time.
Been a while.
Been a while. Detective, so you were assisting Dylan Myers?
I'm sorry?
Were you assisting Detective Dylan Myers?
I didn't have much contact with him.
Okay, so your job was then, as a detective, just to see as far as whether this was an obstruction case or not. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, whether to charge this gentleman with obstructing or not?
Correct.
You weren't making any recommendations about anything else?
I felt like the elements could be there for another offense. Therefore, I sent it. That's why it was sent over to.
Okay, and we say could, right, without
Correct.
further investigation.
Correct.
So you're limited in scope was just to do homework, I guess, for better statement, homework on the original police officer. Is that right?
It's follow-up work.
Just follow up.
Correct.
So that's all you had to do with this case.
Correct.
Excellent.
No further questions.
All right, is this
Excuse.
witness excused?
What, I'm sorry, Judge, can I have one more question?
Yes.
Did you ever go out to the scene?
I did not.
All right, is this any other questions?
No, Judge, excused by the state.
Excused?
Excuse.
All right, thank you. You may step down. Just make sure you leave the exhibit with the court reporter and remove the mic. Thank you. State, call your next witness.
The state calls Officer L. Sanchez.
All right, if you'll take a seat here, please. If you'll raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record. Make sure you keep your voice up so that the members of the jury can hear.
Lawrence Sanchez.
All right, state, you may proceed.
Officer Sanchez, how are you currently employed?
I am an officer with the San Antonio Police Department.
How long have you been with the San Antonio Police Department?
I've been with them 5 years now, ma'am.
Are you a certified peace officer?
Yes, ma'am.
And what kind of training did you undergo to be a law enforcement officer with the San Antonio Police Department?
I went through 7 months of training at the San Antonio Police Department Training Academy. Spent 3 months on FTO program and then an additional year on probation.
And what is your current title and assignment with the San Antonio Police Department?
Right now, I am assigned to the North Safe Unit, which stands for the San Antonio Fear-Free Environment.
Okay. And what are your duties as an officer with the Safe Unit?
We work as a liaison between the police department and neighborhood communities. We engage with community leaders. We assist with homeless abatements, council complaints, neighbor disturbances, and code violations.
Okay. And were you employed as an officer with the Safe Unit on November 1st, 2023?
Yes.
And were you on duty that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you dispatched to Flairwood Drive to conduct follow-up investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall the SAPD case number associated with the case that we're here for today?
I do not recall the exact case number, ma'am.
Did you generate a supplemental report at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
Would it help you to refresh your memory if you had a copy of that?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm showing you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit number 6. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you the author of that document?
I am.
And is it a fair and accurate depiction of the supplemental report that you generated for
Yes.
this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can use it to refresh your memory, just don't read from it, but can you please tell the jury the SAPD case number associated with the case?
Yes, it's going to be SAPD 232-36613.
Okay, and can you explain to the jury how you ended up with the case for follow-up investigation?
Yes, ma'am. So on November 1st of 2023, I was contacted by our fusion unit. Like I said, my job, one of the aspects of my job is dealing with neighbor disturbances. They had this case assigned to them. It was stated, it was told to me that the original case.
Object, Your Honor, it's hearsay.
Sustained.
Okay, so without saying what you're told, just explain to the jury how you ended up with the case. So you, if I'm understanding correctly, you were contacted by Fusion and they were asking you, it didn't fit the crimes that they investigate. Is that fair to say?
That is fair, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so they felt that the appropriate unit would be the state unit, which is your unit.
Correct, yes, ma'am. They deemed it that I could assist both parties. Essentially, it was a neighbor disturbance. So they sent it to me to see if I can assist both parties further. And that's how it came to my desk.
Okay, and then so once you received the case, what was the next step that you took?
So part of the case, there was email sent to me as well as a video of the incident that was provided by the defendant. I looked over the video, saw the entire video, and after looking at the video, talked to my supervisor and let him know what was going on. And we came up with the plan to just go out and interview the victim to see if there's any other additional elements to the offense that occurred. So that's what I did, is went out there and just took a witness statement.
Okay, and so who are the individuals that you took witness statements from on November 1st of 2023?
It would be Mr. Mark Clinton.
Okay, and when you took the witness statement, did you make any observations regarding Mr. Mark Clanton?
Yes, well, he stated to me that he had bruising on his left
Object
arm.
on hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
I observed scabs on his right knee and his right foot.
Okay. And then after reviewing the video evidence and taking the witness statements, what did you next do with the case?
I contacted the follow-up unit again, or the detective at Fusion. Contacted him, let him know what was stated to me, let him know what was going on. I contacted my supervisor as well, let him know what was going on. And then we ended up contacting a homicide detective, let him know the entire situation. And after that, it was just deemed that I should write a supplement to the original case that was already reported.
Okay, and the supplemental report was for what offense?
It was going to be for the aggravated assault with deadly weapon.
Okay, and then was the case forwarded to another unit for more follow-up investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
And what unit would that be?
It would be the homicide unit.
Okay, and after it's transferred to the follow-up unit, is that like the end of your duty for the case?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we passed the witness.
All right, defense.
I'm William Davidson. I'm gonna ask you a few questions.
Yes, sir.
Were you on the scene that day?
On the initial day of the report on October 21st, sir?
Yes.
No, sir.
And so your report was written later, correct?
Yes, sir.
And as part of your report, you would agree with me, you reviewed Kyle Gapin's report and other information, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you just testified that you went out to talk to the victim. The victim in that report was really my client, wasn't it? In the report.
In that report, it was. Yes, sir.
It was. But you didn't go out there to talk to that victim, did you?
No, sir.
So you never talked to her, did you?
No, sir.
Okay. And you weren't a witness to any of these events, obviously, because you weren't there, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And the original video that you watched, you obtained that from who?
Detective Smith.
That's what it's on.
Okay, just briefly. So you received the evidence in this case from Detective Smith, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so what was forwarded to you included the offense report of Officer Kyle Gabin, is that correct?
The case number was forwarded to me as well as the emails that were sent from the defendant.
Okay, and so under the case number with the case management system that SAPD has, you're able to look up the reports and key cards and everything, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so, in Officer Gapin's original report, the defendant was originally listed as the victim, correct?
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
And the case ended up with you because Detective Smith spoke with Darren Johnson and deemed that report unfounded, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and so it was forwarded to you at that time for additional investigation concerning Mark Clanton being the victim of an assaultive offense, is that correct?
That is correct.
We passed the witness, Your Honor.
And when did you review the video?
November 1st, sir.
November 1st. Nothing further on.
And any further questions?
No, Judge, excused by state.
Is this witness excused?
Yes, sir.
All right, you may step down if you'll leave your exhibit with the court reporter.
Officer, if you could remove the mic too. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know I said I would give you a break at 11:30, but I like for both parties to be able to direct and cross the witness if they choose to do so. So it's 11:15, so we're going to take our break now. I'm going to have you all back here at 2:30, and the reason why we're starting at 2:30 is because I have an afternoon docket. It's unrelated to this case. Remember my instructions. You are not allowed to start deliberating with yourself internally. You're not allowed to deliberate with each other. You're not allowed to talk about this case to anyone. You're not allowed to do any investigation. Don't Google names. Don't go to locations that you may have heard about. Make sure your badges are always visibly displayed. And when we start at 2:30, you'll just be waiting for us in the jury room, all right? We can go off the record. So if you brought your lunches, great. If you didn't, there are plenty of places downtown. You'll have time to stroll along the river. If you want to have a picnic on the river, you can now. So there are plenty of different places. I know in the back jury room, we have different restaurants that you can consider. We don't endorse any restaurant. We're not allowed to, but there are just different restaurants that are listed back there, and they're all within walking distance. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors.